Hello and welcome to this first lecture of a new module on designing services, developing and designing services to attain excellence in marketing strategy. So in this module, we will help you again understand in depth how can you attain service excellence. And the process of designing and development pretty much remains same, but we will focus on telling you what are the differences of services from the product, and that's what we will start with this in lecture. And then we'll talk about how to achieve service excellence, and then we will take you through a case study in service excellence. All right. Right. So the question is how to attain service excellence. Any thoughts? Okay, before we look at how to attain service excellence, let's look at the nature of services. So first, what is a service? A service is an action where you perform for someone else that is essentially non tangible, it is intangible, and it does not result in ownership of anything. Unlike a product where you give a product and another person has something in his hand and that he can keep, services, there's nothing tangibility about that. And it may or may not be tied to a physical product, it can be independent of a physical product, or it can be associated with a physical product. And it is important to note is that service is becoming an increasingly important source of differentiation, and the services are everywhere. It's in government sector, in courts and schools, as for example, private non-profit sector like museums, churches, etc. Business sector, obviously, like all airlines, banks, manufacturing sector like computer operators, accountants, and retail, of course, cashiers, perks, clerks, etc. So let's look at the aspect, service aspect of an offering. Now, service can be a small or a big component of an offering, and based on that degree, we can determine in five categories: purely tangible goods like a soap, which has no service element practically. Then there is a tangible good with accompanying service like car with a warranty, right? And there's a hybrid offering like restaurant meal. You have a service as well as you have food that you tangibly access. Then major service with accompanying minor good, air travel with snacks. That's a good example, right? And there's pure service like consulting in which you get nothing, no product as such. Now, the challenge is that the customers cannot judge the quality of service even after receiving. And based on this difficulty, again, we can classify the service benefits into something that can be evaluated only before purchase, like search benefits. Then there are experience benefit, in which you can evaluate it only after purchase, and credence benefit, hard to evaluate even after consumption. So these are the various ways to classify based on the service benefits. Now, because services are high on experience and credence benefits, they normally have higher risk in purchasing, and that results in service customers generally relying on word of mouth. So word of mouth is much more critical in services than advertising. And they rely on price provided and physical cues to judge the quality. Because if you can't assess the quality of a service, then you rely on things like price, physical cues, and provider. And the customers are very loyal to service provider who can satisfy them. Customer satisfaction become even more important in design and delivery of a differentiated service. And because the switching costs are high, uh, taking business from a competitor is more challenging in case of a service business, because customers will get satisfied, they're tied to a customers, and when you want to market your service, they really can't get a sample unless they use it for some time and do that. And that can bring in some additional marketing tactics like promotions where you offer certain period fees free service. While the customer loyalty is high in case of service, failures can be a PR nightmare and undermine that loyalty. Let's look at what are the characteristics of services. There are four characteristics of services that greatly affect the design of the marketing program of these services. One is intangibility, we talked about it. Second is inseparability, and we will see that variability and perishability. Let's look at each of these in more detail to understand their implication on how can we market these services excellently. Intangibility. Unlike products, services can't be seen, tasted, felt, heard, or smelt before buying. Once you buy them, then only you can get a feeling of the services. And the buyers look for quality by drawing inferences from place, people, equipments, communication, materials, symbols, and price to help them decide which is the right service for them. And therefore, the main task is to manage the evidence to tangibilize the intangible service element. So you have to figure out ways how in your marketing, how can you make your service more seen, felt, heard, smelt even before buying. And what you need to do is to demonstrate quality by emphasizing the tangible aspect. And hence your facility becomes even more important than a product. Where in a product the service is not, the facility is not important. Here in a service marketing, the facility is important. The cues associated with service are important. Then there are other brand elements like logos, symbols, characters, and slogans that you need to choose to make the service more tangible. Inseparability. Let's talk about this characteristic of the service. When the physical goods are manufactured, they can be stocked separately, distributed, and consume, and they can be manufactured, and then they can be done later. The services are produced and consumed simultaneously. So that's a difference. Product is manufactured at a time and then distributed later, where services have to be produced and consumed simultaneously. In case of service, you as a provider is a part of the service and client is often present. So there is a client and provider interaction, and that's a special feature of the services marketing. Where in case of product, that is not necessarily the case. While clients will have stronger provider preferences, the provider can raise price to ration its limited time. So that's another opportunity for you to do better marketing, which is not there in case of products. Now, there are several strategies that you can overcome to this challenge of inseparability of service from versus the product. One, you can work in larger groups to allow more output. If your capacity is getting limited and you're serving one-to-one, you can work with larger groups to leverage the groups and sell more by using the services, provided the customers are okay with that. And you can use variable pricing to influence customers' demand to match capacity. So at the time you have peak demand, you can raise the pricing. When you have slack demand, you can reduce the prices and draw demand at those times. The third element is the variability. The quality of service depends on who provides them, as well as when, where, and by to whom. So the services received varies across individuals, customers, and service provider. Same service varies, differs. Now, there are three things that you can do to reduce the service variability. Invest in good training procedures as well as good hiring. So people matter more than they matter in case of products. Standardize the service performance process throughout the organization using a service blueprint, and we will show you what it could look like. And monitor customer satisfaction to provide the required quality. And because the customer expectation can also vary along with the provision of service that you provide. So it's monitoring customer satisfaction is very critical. So let's look at what are the service blueprint look like. The service blueprint for an overnight guest, an example at a hotel. So it starts with the way the service is provided, from arriving at a hotel to giving bags to bell person to check in to go to room, receiving bags till the time you check out and leave. And this blueprint fixes who is going to do what and how. And this kind of lays down the responsibility within your organization. And if you can create this kind of service blueprint and hire right people and train them, you can handle the variability in service provision. The fourth element, which is very important, is the perishability characteristics of the service. Now, here the services can perish, will perish, right? There's a certain time period in which you get the service, and once that is over, it's not more available. So the demand or yield management is very important in this kind of to handle this perishability. You must make sure that the right services are available to customers at the right time, in right places, at right prices to maximize profitability. Now, there are several things that you can do to match supply and demand. So, managing supply and demand is very critical because otherwise your service will be no more available. On the demand side, differential pricing, as we talked about earlier, cultivating non-peak demand, complementary services as alternative to for waiting customers. So, if the customers are waiting, if not yet paid, you can offer some complementary free services, right? Reservation. So, these are the ways to manage demand. On supply side, use of part-time employees, peak time efficiency routines. At the time when you are peak, how can you be more efficient? Increasing customer participation so that it can reduce load on you to supply that. Share the services and facilities for future expansion. The services must have facilities for future expansion. Let's look at what are the new service realities. Once not very far back, services lagged manufacturers in marketing. Now, this has changed, certainly changed, and some of the most skilled marketeers are now from service firms. And the new reality that all of them are recognizing, all of you should also recognize, is increasing role of technology, importance of empowering the customer co-production, and need to engage employees as well as customers. Let's look at each of these important ways you can handle the challenges of services marketing. Now, increasing role of technology, the companies are adopting, and you can adopt digital technologies to deliver value to customers more and more so. It will make your workers more productive. You can introduce live chat to blend technology with human voice. This allows for truly interactive, customer and specific and situational personalization and real-time adjustment in offering. Customer empowerment is necessary because customers are becoming more sophisticated about buying product support services. They're pushing for unbundled services and right to select the elements they want. They want more choices. Disliking dealing with they don't like dealing with multitude of service providers, dealing with different types of product. They rather deal with one type of person, and they are empowered by social media to send their comments around the world at the click of the mouse. So it's very important to handle this empowered customers. Customer co-production can be very wonderful tool to market your services better. They like and they have started playing active role in service delivery. They believe are they it is believed that they value more when they are such engaged. So more you can engage your customers, the value to customers will increase because they will start owning up that customer. And this engagement is though causing one third of the service problems, which is likely to increase. So there are the downside is that there could be more service problems. Now, how can you manage such problems? Are redesign processes and redefine customer roles to simplify service encounters. So that is very important. Where and what the customer should do and redesign the process accordingly is very important. Incorporate technology to aid employees and customers, the right technologies. Create high performance customers by enhancing their role, clarity, motivation, and ability, and encourage customer citizenship to help each other. You need to have satisfied employee as well as customer to deliver customer satisfaction. You must attract the best employees you can find by marketing a career rather than a job. Develop positive attitude in the employees, instill strong customer orientation, design sound training program, provide support to them, reward them for great performance, reinforce customer-centered attitudes, and audit employee job satisfaction regularly. So, having looked at how is services different and what are the challenges, what do we do next? In the next lecture, we start looking at how can we achieve service excellence, and that requires three things of which we will talk about in the next lecture. So thank you so much for watching this first lecture on service excellence module in this course on marketing strategy excellence. I hope you're beginning to learn new things about services, beginning to enjoy, and I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture.